Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup. It is July 10th, 2021. This week, a lot of good news was going on there and a lot of interesting news. First up on the docket tonight, of course, we're going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch OLED model being announced and some of the concern about it not being a Switch Pro. We'll also be talking about hackers hitting Apex Legends because they're upset about hackers hacking Titanfall 1. Weird, right? And of course, we'll also be talking about Assassin's Creed Infinity being leaked by Bloomberg, and then for Ubisoft to turn around and go ahead and talk about that as well. Again, guys, it is July 10th, 2021. We're going to roll our intro and get things started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup for the week of November 20th, 2020. It is Friday. It is, where's my date? It's September 18th. 2020 here to our first story, and this is actually breaking news for all of us right now here too. Figured this is a kind of a big one to cover, of course, with who it is. Joined via Discord by Kyle because we're in the midst of a pandemic still, and of course everything is all kinds of crazy. So this thing is a chonker. I mean,
yeah, it's a beast.
It's huge. Doing that we had the Resident Evil stuff, that they were successful with Castlevania. Welcome to another NPC's Weekly News Roundup. And it's the news time. I am joined, of course, by Kyle via Discord. Kyle, hello.
What's up?
Man. That's right, guys. It is July 10th, 2021. I'm Travis. That's Kyle over there on Discord. Good evening, Kyle.
Good evening.
Sorry, we're running a little bit late here, folks. Things happen. I think you probably understand, being alive in 2021. Is anybody really alive? You know what? We don't even need to talk about that. Let's not answer that question. But yeah, so let's hop right into the news because there's been a lot going on this week, and I think we got some really fun things to talk about. So let's just go ahead and start with our first story of the week. From The Verge, Nintendo Switch OLED model will go on sale October 8th for $350. Nintendo is announcing a new Switch model today with a larger 7-inch 720p OLED display. While rumors have suggested the new Switch would ship with a new NVIDIA chip inside, the new OLED model is mostly a screen upgrade. Nintendo lists the Switch OLED model as only supporting 1080p via TV mode, and rumors had suggested 4K support thanks to a rumored NVIDIA chip upgrade. The Switch OLED model will go on sale for $350 starting on October 8th. Other than the new screen, this revised model includes an adjustable stand for tabletop play, 64 gigs of built-in storage up from 32 gigs, a new dock with a wired Ethernet port built in, and improved audio for handheld or tabletop play. Nintendo only mentions up to 1080p via HDMI and TV mode for the TV dock, so the rumored 4K mode isn't part of the OLED Switch. Nintendo has confirmed to The Verge that there are no major internal changes to the CPU or memory. Quote, Nintendo Switch OLED model does not have a new CPU or more RAM from previous Nintendo Switch models, says a Nintendo spokesperson. Elsewhere, there's little that's changed over on the original device. Nintendo says battery life on the new OLED Switch will be up to 9 hours, the same amount as the current Switch. And this OLED Switch is slightly longer than the original and also slightly heavier at 0.71 pounds versus the 0.66 pounds of the original Switch. Original Joy-Cons will all work with the new Switch, and all existing games will run on this new OLED model. Nintendo is also offering both black and white units when the Switch OLED model ships later this year. The new dock will also work with both the Nintendo Switch and this new OLED model. The updated Switch has been rumored heavily in recent months, and Nintendo has chosen to reveal it well after the company's E3 show that focused exclusively on new Switch games. Reports had suggested this new Switch would appear before E3 began last month. The new Switch arrives nearly 2 years after the Switch Lite, a smaller and cheaper version of the Switch that you can hook up to a TV. The Switch Lite debuted at $199 in September 2019. Kyle, dude, we need to talk about this. We need to really talk about this console because I know I went through that really quick, but let's kind of go over some of these facts here that they were talking about. Okay, so we got a 7-inch OLED screen, which means that the resolution stays the same at 720p. The pixel density is going to be getting to be less because they actually increase the size of the screen, making the bezel smaller. So it's going to look maybe better. I mean, the darks will the darks will look darker, the lights will look lighter. Yeah, I'm sure there'll probably be some maybe better color vibrance, but
the color vibrance definitely. As far as like image and pixelation on that small of a screen, I don't think you'll notice too much. Your
Probably
blacks will definitely be truer.
Yeah.
Like you'll get the deepest dark blacks you can get that only like OLED is capable of. And then
Absolutely.
yeah, the color richness definitely I don't know. I think they said there's not a lot of a change. I mean, there are some changes. I mean, we didn't see the upgrade to the RAM that developer kits are seeing.
No,
So
we did not.
that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Um we did get the upgrade to the hard drive, which is quite nice. That should have been that way in the first place, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with
Um
that one.
we lost a USB port, but it was never active.
No, it was active. It was actually a usable
Well,
USB port.
it was usable, but it wasn't like 3.0, like they hadn't fully unlocked it.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I can actually
Yeah.
agree with that. That's fair. It was a USB Type C, but
So,
it was also a USB Type C that wasn't actually 3.0 or 3.1 speeds. So yes, you're right.
right. So I mean, we lost that but gained the Ethernet jack. That's kind of nice. I think the biggest improvement overall, in my opinion, is the kickstand.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can actually find a picture of it with the kickstand deployed here because I don't think we actually had that picture on the article. Let's see, Nintendo Switch.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Games like Metroid are and Breath of the Wild 2 are gonna look really amazing on that OLED screen. But I think the most major improvement overall with the new unit, it's something we should have seen a revision to much more early on, was the kickstand.
Right. I really think so too. I mean, it's not like the kickstand was necessarily bad, but it was a very thin piece of plastic and it was also responsible for covering up the micro SD card slot.
Yeah.
That in itself is just like back in the day, back when our old like flip phones and that used to have like the charging port covers that you had to flip
Hmm.
open to plug your phone in with. Imagine using that to basically prop up your phone in some way, like using that as a phone
Yeah.
stand. It's kind of like that. It worked, but yeah, then you risk, of course, your micro SD card being exposed. So that is a
Right.
thing. It's a problem. So I haven't actually seen the underside of it where the micro SD goes. I'm
There
kind of curious to see if it's the same thing where it just slots in there and then it is covered up by the dock, or not the dock,
there
excuse me, but the stand.
there was one thing that probably a lot of people don't think about, but it is actually a major improvement, is better venting on the actual dock itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've ever looked at a Switch that's been docked and had hundreds of hours of play, the vents are melted on it.
Okay. Yeah, and
I'm
for us
not
here
even
in the
joking. Like, just the heat is actually way too much in that dock.
yeah, and
So the better venting is good.
yeah, for us in the house, the Switch really is only in the dock when it's just sitting there charging. Other
Hmm.
than that, I think it spends more time in handheld and tabletop than it does actually being in the dock itself, unless it's just putting it there when people are done with it.
Right.
But a couple of the interesting things, though, to look at here, of course, and this is where some of the concern comes into play, is that, of course, a lot of people are expecting this to be the Switch Pro model. So,
Hmm.
we didn't get that. We didn't get any CPU or GPU RAM enhancements. We didn't get any enhancements actually within the console itself. So that's a shame, especially because Nintendo's push to bring AAA titles to this console, especially like Doom Eternal. Actually, you know what? Let's go with like one of the first big ones they brought over was Witcher 3. And Witcher 3
Hmm.
had to really be scaled back to even work on the Switch in the first place. It's like it worked, but it wasn't the best experience for what The Witcher is, which ends up
Right.
being that case on other consoles and, of course, on PC. On top of that, you also have the fact that the Joy-Cons that are packaged in are apparently the exact same Joy-Cons that have been available this entire time. There's no change to the internals. So that means that we are predicting at least another round of Joy-Con drift to occur, especially for those people who do end up actually burning through Joy-Cons a lot or do spend more time actually playing with the Joy-Cons and not like a Pro controller or anything. So that's going to be another major issue. But I think the biggest one overall, though, is because we didn't see those improvements.
Hmm.
Um, it's like it comes down to who is this actually for? I mean, because a lot of the enhancements are just really in the handheld side of things. It's not even for the docked and out to TV part of it because sure you get an Ethernet connection on it. That's
I
great.
don't know.
That's
I
cool.
disagree about that. Yeah,
Well,
the
so
Ethernet is really cool.
yeah,
Um,
but it's all about the
I,
online
it's
network that
not
you're connecting
necessary.
to. But it's like you look at
Yeah,
Nintendo Switch Online, it still requires you to do voice chat through your phone. You can't even do voice chat through the
yeah,
thing itself. And there are people who complain still about even the wireless side when it comes to playing online games. And there are, quite a few online games that are coming up. I'm not going to say your casual ones like Animal Crossing. You're never going to have a problem, I think, in a
hmm
game like that because it is so casual. Things that require that actual consistent connectivity, Super Smash Brothers Ultimate,
Oh
Overwatch,
yeah,
Apex Legends, if the online side of it really doesn't change, and even with the wired in part, it's like that's great. If nothing changes on that side of it, then in reality, is that Ethernet port even worth it in the first place? You lost a USB port, that's
right.
great. I don't know how many people are really using that USB port on the back, but why? It's like you have to, like, if you want people to connect into the internet and hardwire in, you need to give them a reason to do that. And if nothing changes, it's just another port. That's it.
I still have my theory about that. With the you look at games like Control, and I want to say there was one other, uh, but they have to be streamed to the console.
Yeah, that's
There's
another good
no
point.
actual physical game to them.
That's
So
another good
I
point.
think that's who they're trying to target with that Ethernet connection. Is you really want to play Control and you only have a Switch by chance? Well, you can
Hmm.
still play it, you know. And the nice thing
Right.
is they have announced that the dock is going to be sold separately. So I mean, if you want to upgrade your dock to something that's a little bit more breathable for your console, that's available. I mean, chances are you, like I had said before, you probably weren't even using that port in the first place. So if you've got the ability to use Ethernet connection, you might as well do that too.
Yeah, and then I think you really hit the nail on the head is that they're trying to appease those who maybe are playing those games that require
hmm
the streaming component. You only install, a partial amount of the game on your console, but everything else actually has to be
Right.
done through that streaming service. And that's probably how Nintendo's going to handle a lot of this 4K stuff. They're probably going to partner with somebody who actually handles a lot of that streaming game stuff very well, whether it
Oh, I
ends
have
up
a
being
theory
like,
about that too.
well, we've talked about that previously that maybe they'll partner up with Microsoft and we'll see like Xbox game
I
streaming
actually
or
have a
something
new
come over.
theory too.
But then, yeah, I'm curious to hear it. But before we get to that, what I want to say is potentially Nvidia being the partner because the inside of the console is made by Nvidia. Technically, it's a Tegra processor. So why couldn't we see
It is.
potentially this being GeForce Now? And imagine it's like, hey, you want to play these AAA titles? Well, guess what? Boom, GeForce Now is a part of the Switch, and now you can play 4K titles, 4K AAA titles on your handheld like this, and that's what you've got. So
And you
who are
hit
you
the nail on the
theorizing?
head,
Is that who it
actually.
was? Was
Yeah.
GeForce? Okay, GeForce Now. Okay, I think they'd end up being probably the partner. I think if they did partner with Microsoft, it would be an interesting one, so to speak, because of course the rivalries between Nintendo and Microsoft and
hmm
Sony anyway. But for Nintendo to jump over and especially go to the PC space where, Nvidia doesn't really have a kind of like a way into the console market right now since AMD has really locked a lot of that down in the last
hmm
couple of console generations. That would be a way to kind of get out there, at
I
least
have
in
a
some
feeling
respect.
Xbox is going to find its way onto other consoles regardless, because of the way they're trying to format out. They're
Hmm.
going to find their way onto PlayStation, even
Very
if
possible.
PlayStation doesn't want it. Switch, maybe not so much because they are so, I don't know, isolated as a whole system. I mean,
Hmm.
there's just nothing like them, you know, and I don't see them picking either side in a console war, in all honesty, just because they had that ultimate almost partnership with Sony previously, many many years ago, granted, but
Hmm.
it was still there, and it did spark the rivalry between Nintendo and Sony. And I don't think Sony or Nintendo would want to like make things any worse or do anything to like stir up anything by partying with Microsoft. I yeah, I think they'll talk with Microsoft, but it won't get past that.
Yeah, and I don't see Microsoft and Sony really kind of like working together in that vein because what we've
Yeah.
seen, especially in the news, like if we look at last week with the Sony dev stuff, and then we had talked about it in our NPCs discuss
Hmm.
a couple weeks ago that Sony's kind of emphasis on charging for like crossplay type stuff as well, that really kind of puts them at a disadvantage to even work with, say, like, some of these other companies because Xbox, Microsoft's team has been fully open to do it. Nintendo's really bringing in a lot of stuff with crossplay.
Hmm.
Um, and then, of course, I'll go back to Microsoft. They're taking the step up by removing a lot of those obstacles on like free to play online games where you don't need Xbox Live Gold to play something like Apex Legends or Warzone or Rocket League or whatever. It's become one of those things that you don't have to pay all that extra money for, but Sony still seems to wall themselves off. So I don't
Hmm.
think Sony will ever do anything like that. But on the Switch front, though, back to kind of like what's going on here, of course, and the concern about it not being what the Switch Pro was supposed to be. All the rumors were coming out. It's like, great, we got a 7-inch OLED screen that's only going to do 720p, whatever.
I
We've
think
we've
I
got
think
a
that happened though because people knew that they were buying the screens. We've known that Nintendo was buying screens for what, like 8 months now.
yeah.
Um, and so we knew that was going on. Then we also knew that the developers were getting systems with a larger quantity of RAM. It's like from 4 up to 8 gigs or something like that.
Yeah.
Or it's not a big boost. But you know what I'm getting at. I
Oh, I
could
do.
be
I do.
wrong on the
And
size, but
well, don't forget though
yeah.
too is that there was also that leak of code that came out that had, I don't want to say Qualcomm, I want to say maybe Broadcom, but there's something about a Broadcom driver that had
Hmm.
4K signal information built into it that was leaked out. I think it was a part of the Nintendo Giga leak that happened. Don't quote me on that. That's where I think it came from, but someone had the information there that said there's 4K information being here it like that's in there in the code
Yeah.
set. So whether or not maybe that was taken from some type of development for another Switch, or even maybe some of the game streaming stuff, or just someone at Nintendo was just screwing around to see, hey, what could be done with 4K. But I
Well, and another thing to
digress.
consider too is Nintendo, just like Sony, is gonna throw out patents. Like if they think something could be a good idea in the future, they're probably gonna try and patent it.
Oh,
You
fair.
know.
No, absolutely. I 100% see that as well too.
So I
I
mean, even
just
if those show up, it could be out there, but I think it was just an amalgamation of all these things happening and rumors flying at the same time, and it just kind of coalesced, and people were like, "Oh, it's got to be a Switch Pro. It's got to be a 4K Switch Pro."
yeah, just every little bit of
So,
information kind of came together. I agree with that a lot of people were really stuck on that. But even so, you know, at least I don't even know if I'd consider it a refresh necessarily because it's just the bigger screen, it's the different hinge design for the or different uh kickstand,
minor
the
rework.
internal storage. Yeah, because the dock is going to be sold separately.
Yeah.
And that's going to be another thing that people can go and pick up if they even have the original Switch, if they even want the wired Ethernet, because that's about the only thing it offers. One less USB port with Ether, and then Ethernet in its place. But then, of course, it being a white console maybe would be something that's a selling point for some people. I don't know. I know that it's more like the collector edition style consoles that people want, like the Animal
Mhm.
Crossing, New Horizons one, the Legend of Zelda one, like that I think was for Breath of the
Right.
Wild. There's a lot of them out there that people like, but not necessarily some of this. So who this is targeting is a little bizarre, but I don't see people who already have the Nintendo Switch going out and spending money to get this unless maybe their Switch that they have now is on its last legs and they were already considering a replacement. I don't see your core Switch audience going and getting the new one just right off the bat unless there was something special about it, which there really isn't.
I I just want to throw one last thing out there. I feel like this is what we should have got for the what is it? The O1 unit that they came out with later. And that actually launched after the light, that should have launched before the light. Like
Right.
this is what we should have got then.
Right, because that
So,
re-release
but
was the one where they did something different to the chipset, to the actual Tegra chip, but
the
they
chipset and the battery
also,
life.
well, the chipset change is what affected the battery life and improved it. It's like they found some sort of tweak, but also as part of it,
Mhm.
it also countered some sort of piracy ability in it too. Don't ask me which
Oh.
part it was, but there was something that had come out around the same time that was related to some sort of issue that couldn't necessarily be resolved with a patch on the Tegra SoC. And this change was supposed to help mitigate that. It was some sort of way, I think, to actually
Um,
to root and jailbreak your Switch, so that way then you could do whatever with it. But it was underlying enough that it's like you couldn't do anything because it was actually a part of the chip itself, not necessarily the software, but just a part of the chip. So I
right.
think that's where some of that came in, but they had the net bonus of it increasing the battery life though when they made the change. So that was probably part of it. But I'm curious to know if anybody out there who's watching us does end up getting the new Switch. And, I mean, we got a few months to go. October 8th is when this thing is going to drop, the same day as Metroid Dread, by the way. If anybody does get it and you do play online on the Switch, let us know how the Ethernet side of it works. Otherwise, I wouldn't be surprised if we pick up a new dock here ourselves and, try it out. We'll just see how things look with like Smash Brothers Ultimate or one of the other games that we've got. So we can also report back that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the meantime, Kyle, besides some of the crazy news that has come out of Nintendo there, let's talk about some days of yore with Nintendo going for a crazy amount of money here. You can actually talk to us about this one. And it's from Polygon. Legend of Zelda cartridge sells for a record $870,000 at auction. Talk to us about this one.
A sealed cartridge of The Legend of Zelda sold on Friday for $870,000, making it the highest priced video game ever sold at auction. The sale broke the previous record held by the sale of a sealed copy of Super Mario Bros. That went for $660,000 in April. Both games were sold by Heritage Auctions, and the price on each included a 20% buyer's fee. The deal dwarfs previous sales of The Legend of Zelda, The Legend of Zelda conducted by the auctioning site prior to this. Another high-end cartridge of the game sold for $50,400 in September of 2020, making this roughly 17 times the price of that earlier one. When accounted for the exorbitant price, or what accounted for the exorbitant price hike? Well, this one's factory sealed and rated 9.0, sealed by WADA, with a 10 being the highest possible rating. But beyond its condition, much of its value comes down to this. It is the only copy from one of the earliest production runs that the auction site had the opportunity to offer, as the listing says, possibly have to offer for many years. Uh, it is widely believed that the copy sold Friday is one of just two sealed NES TM copies graded by WADA, a release said. The cartridge's rate is a rare variant edition of The Legend of Zelda that was only produced for a few months in the late 1987, before it was replaced by another. Essentially, this copy is the earliest sealed copy one could realistically hope to obtain, the auction description said. That, coupled with the sweeping fan interest and the cultural significance of the Legend of Zelda franchise at large, made for a highly desirable item. You can read a full description from the auction, and we will real quick, actually.
Do
The
it.
Legend of Zelda WADA 9.0, a sealed, no Rev A round sequence, I'm assuming that is, early production, Nintendo 1987 US. Truly, the term grail only begins to scratch the surface of describing this game. Of all the games we've offered in our auction, this sealed early production copy of the first game in the groundbreaking Legend of Zelda series is no doubt the apotheosis of rarity, cultural significance, and collection centerpieces. a proverbial trifecta of collector perfection that only one will receive the honor of calling their. While it is hard, while it is a hard truth, it is a truth nonetheless. None of the copies we've offered of this title previously could even attempt to hold a candle to this one due to the incredibly rare variant that holds early production status. This matter is completely inarguable. This is the only copy from one of the earliest production runs we've ever had the opportunity to offer, and possibly will have the opportunity to offer for many years to come. Considering the variant was only produced for a few months in 1987 before it was ultimately replaced by the Revision A variant in early 1988, this statement likely comes as no surprise to collectors. Only one other variant precedes the offered NES R variant, that is the NES TM variant, which is the true first production run. However, it is also widely believed that only a single sealed NES TM example exists, and there is no telling whether or not that copy will ever come to market. Essentially, this copy is the earliest sealed copy one could realistically hope to obtain. Wow.
Yeah, no kidding. Like I've got the pictures up here from the article itself, and I mean this thing looks, I
It's
mean
not even sun
it's
damaged.
no. So whoever had it, I mean, I'm genuinely curious to know. It's like, did they keep it on their shelf? Did they keep it like in a box or something like that, just holding on to it for all this time? Because to be able to even keep it sealed in the first place is just insane. I mean, the fact though that it was rated as a 9.0, which means that, I mean, at least the box is probably beat up a tiny bit somewhere in there for it to receive that, because that's what the rating
Yeah.
says, is that the box is a 9.0 and the seal is an A. So the question then is what about the box there? I guess I can see it right there. There's a couple little dings, it looks like, in the box itself, but
Yeah.
the plastic itself doesn't look like it's torn, which is cool. So yeah, if you're holding on to something like this, by all means, I mean, go and see if you can sell it off there. That would definitely pay for your retirement or a nice vacation or something there, of course, But
Just hopefully no one opens it for the map.
oh my God, yeah. Oh my God. That, ugh. I would think for something like that, like that's something I would take and almost put away like in a gun safe just to hide away after,
Right.
after
A
all
gun
that.
safe? Like a safe deposit box.
No, no, gun safe,
No?
buried underground in a hyperbaric chamber that is then surrounded by booby traps and everything else. It's just like basically keep that thing locked away as far as possible. But
Fair enough.
yeah, but anyway, I digress because we got more stuff to talk about here, of course, in the news. Let's talk about our next story here. From NME, video game hackers claim Denuvo and DRM to blame for Resident Evil Village PC stutters. PC gamers playing Resident Evil Village have long struggled with performance issues, including major stuttering, which hackers allege are being caused by Capcom's own DRM software. After allegations from a notable member in the video game cracking community that Capcom's DRM software was causing significant stuttering issues on PC versions, DSOG are reporting that they also believe this to be the case after testing. The site alleges that despite dealing with stuttering problems during their initial performance analysis, they have not encountered the same issues once during hours of playtime on a cracked version of Resident Evil Village. A hacker responsible for cracking Resident Evil Village has explained. All in-game shutters, like the one from when you kill a zombie, are fixed because Capcom's DRM entry points are patched out, so most of their functions are never executed anymore. This results in a much smoother game experience. They also allege that Capcom's own DRM was fully obfuscated in Denuvo's VM, making the game run even slower. Following up, they urge no one accepts this. These issues have been reported frequently by those playing Resident Evil Village on PC, with players reporting that there's still no fix within the last month. Denuvo has been the subject of significant controversy in the PC gaming community, as many reports in the past, including an article by Extreme Tech, have accused the anti-piracy software of negatively affecting the performance of games in the past. So Denuvo has made and reared its ugly head into everything that's going on now. And of course, we've talked about Denuvo in the past, and Denuvo's always been a problem for a lot of different games. But for the fact that it does run underneath because it's trying to prevent you from, re-sharing out your game itself, it's causing your inability to even play the game in the first place, especially for someone who maybe isn't going to do anything like that anyway. Like, that's why I'm wondering, like, with what's going on here, it's like, I don't even know how de novo still exists in the first place.
Yeah, I wish I knew, in all honesty, because it's gotten so much bad publicity um over the years, even for what little good publicity it's had, which I don't think is like any, if at all, you know. It's just, I don't know. It they should have killed it a long time ago. Piracy's gonna happen. Let's be real. Um
Yeah,
there's
that's a
got to be
fact.
something if they really want to protect it, if they really want to put some sort of DRM in there. There's something that's got to be different that they can do, you
Right.
know.
Absolutely.
But I don't know.
There's another one out there that I'm trying to remember. It wasn't just de novo that was a problem. There was another one out there, but I can't remember its name right off the top of my head. There was another one, but I can't remember it though.
Yeah, I'm looking up different forms of
What I'm very
DRM.
curious, well, yeah, I mean, like, I think the one that's probably by far been the most stable has been Valve's anti-cheat, has been
Yeah.
VAC. I think VAC has not been a problem because you see VAC being used in competitive games. I mean, more specifically, competitive stuff that is Valve's own product, Team Fortress 2, CSGO, Dota, and that. But it does so well underlying that you don't actually see any performance hits in the games. That's where it's like they've got it figured out, but it's probably more of an underlying thing with like source code type stuff than it actually is anything else, like as a secondary thing.
Was it the
So,
Arzan anti-tamper?
no.
Mm.
I can't remember. Let's just go back to the days of Punkbuster.
Oh my god, that was crap too. Yeah, there are so many, honestly,
It's an
so
option.
many forms
It is an
of
option.
DRM that people are even going so far as, well, production companies are going so far as to write their own DRMs specific to their games. I mean, there's really got to be something else out there. Really
Mm-hmm.
got to be something else out there. I mean, you look at, like, think about Super NES. Shoot, now I can't even remember the US title. Mother.
Earthbound?
That's what Earthbound. Yeah. If you play a ROM version of Earthbound, you can't get around this. You can't finish the game. It will either crash during the boss fight, delete your save, freeze at the end of the fight. You can't finish the game.
Mm-hmm.
And other things will happen in the game that they're passable, but the one that's not passable is it will always fail at the end of the game. So you can never finish Earthbound if you're playing a ROM version, from what I understand.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yeah. There's just something in it. And I don't know why they can't do that. Just put something in the code that, says, hey, that they either have done this or haven't done this, and hide it really good, because apparently they hit it really good in Earthbound.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a simple just bit change, just on or off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it doesn't really affect anything. I mean, it could be affected by a CE key, but I mean, if you're more secure with your CE keys and you don't let the code out for, you know, code generators to happen, well, then, you know, I
No,
don't know.
you're right.
I wish I could figure out something. Even if it was like to download a license onto your cell phone and then just Bluetooth it to your console, that would be better than anything, or than having de novo.
Yeah, and that's why it needs to be something that's not just a secondary thing. Like, I know it's a lot of work for these devs to be able to actually make some sort of in-house anti-cheat software, but especially for some of these bigger things. I mean, Valve has got it figured out. Why is it that like Activision can't figure it out for Warzone? Why is it that, Blizzard can't figure it out maybe for Overwatch? It's like there's got to be like underlying stuff that they can put in there that's actually built as a part of the game's code instead of relying on a third party to be able to do it because we've already seen it. Denuvo has
Right.
failed because of it being a third party thing. It's not a first party thing. So
Well,
that's
and
the only
people
way it's
have
going to be
proven that
fixed.
they can totally just destroy Denuvo too,
True.
on certain games. So why is it even on there?
Yeah, that's also true. I'm sure that a part of it kind of comes in maybe like contracts that have been signed though too that say like we'll use Denuvo and we will have it in X amount of games up through this point in time.
Probably.
Potentially. That's my only thought is that I can't imagine, hey, we want to use it. It's like, well, we have a licensing agreement that it has to be used X amount of times,
Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't know.
yeah, me either. Just stop cheating and we won't have this problem. And stop sharing files. Anyway, that probably won't happen either. We carry on over here to our next story, and this was definitely an interesting one to drop this week, especially because it was leaked and then it was confirmed.
Confirmed right off.
Yeah, like literally within hours. So Kyle's going to talk about this one from Video Games Chronicle. Where's my button here? There it is. Ubisoft is working on Assassin's Creed Infinity, a huge evolving online game. So what exactly is Infinity, Kyle?
Bloomberg's Jason Schreier reported earlier today, that being 4 days ago, that the project has the code name Assassin's Creed Unity and will be
not Unity. You said Unity.
Infinity. Sorry.
God, Unity was already
sorry.
there.
Whoa. Yeah.
How dare you?
Bad flashbacks or something. I don't know. Assassin's Creed Infinity, and will be a large online platform that will continue to grow in months and years following its release. The report claims that while previous Assassin's Creed games were set in a specific historic period, Assassin's Creed Infinity will be set in multiple different periods, and this could expand to even more over time. Ubisoft has since confirmed the game's existence in a new blog post, but has given no information on the game or on what the game is about, other than the fact that it will be a collective between both Ubisoft Montreal, Assassin's Creed Origins in Valhalla, and Ubisoft Quebec, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Rather than continue to pass the baton from game to game, we profoundly believe this is an opportunity for one of Ubisoft's most beloved franchises to evolve in a more integrated and collaborative manner that's less centered on studios and more focused on talent and leadership, no matter where they are within Ubisoft. A statement on the blog reads, "Most importantly, Assassin's Creed has always been developed by multicultural teams with various backgrounds and perspectives that have influenced and the depictions of its characters, locations, and culture. While we know there's always room for improvement, we believe this new structure allows us to ensure that diversity and representation within our teams continues to grow and match that of our players. The project is said to still be a number of years away from release, and according to Schreier, the team involved face internal issues as several men accused of sexual abuse are reportedly still involved in the project. Whoops-a-doodle.
Yeah.
This presumably includes Mark Alexis Cote, who Ubisoft had confirmed will be leading the new cross-studio collaborative structure. A spokesperson from Ubisoft acknowledged the existence of Infinity to Schreier and states that Ubisoft aims to exceed expectations of fans who have been asking for more cohesive approach to the series. According to Gama Sutra, or a Gama Sutra article, last year, Cote was accused of being aware of toxic behavior at Ubisoft Quebec and knowingly enabling the toxicity. According to the report, sources claimed that Cote personally treated them well, but was aware of the abuse being dealt out by senior colleagues and allegedly took no action. When asked about these claims by Schreier, Ubisoft spokesperson stated, "Any employee that had allegations and remain at Ubisoft has had their case rigorously reviewed by third party and were either exonerated or underwent appropriate disciplinary actions. Employees who have been under investigation will not remain at Ubisoft if results in an investigation warranted termination. Despite this, Schreier reports that some managers accused of abusive behavior remain in senior positions, with Ubisoft's internal message board receiving numerous complaints by staff unhappy at the company's response to the allegations. In an interview with VGC last year, Assassin's Creed Valhalla producer Julian Lafiere told us, I think what's great about Assassin's Creed is that because we're dealing with history, there are so many other time periods and moments that we could tap into. For it's a great franchise that has a lot of possibilities, including riding giant wargs, apparently, but whatever.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk about what's going on here in the first part. We'll kind of come back here to this second part. So Infinity is going to be apparently a live service Assassin's Creed game. So we're talking live service. It's a game that is developed the one time and then is casually updated and upgraded as you go, but you only still require that core component to get the updates and upgrades. Examples being Fortnite, being Warzone, being Apex Legends, being Destiny, GTA Online is probably one of the best examples as well too. Valorant. So the fact is that Ubisoft has a very, very well built out universe for the Assassin's Creed game series, and they have the ability to effectively make probably what could be a decent live service game if they handle it right. But it's interesting to see them chasing something like this down so late kind of into the live service environment right now. Like everybody was jumping on board with battle royales. It just seems a little weird that they're hitting it now. And I would figure that they'd be more inclined to say, oh, I don't know, maybe have been hitting this like around the same time Valhalla hit. You know, it's like, this is what we're doing, and maybe Valhalla could have been that first thing, but who knows? So for them to be kind of hitting it more towards like the last minute, you know, is a little interesting, especially because like even the tweet here from Jason Schreier on here says, you know, he's like, details on Assassin's Creed Infinity are still in flux as it won't be out until 2024 or later, but it may be some sort of hub that allows people to play multiple Assassin's Creed games, both big and small. Or Ubisoft may say, screw it and give up to the chase to chase the next trend 3 years from now. So this either could be a all or nothing type thing for Ubisoft to determine exactly what they do next, whether they do this or they just go back to the tried and true method of an Assassin's Creed game every couple of years. Who knows if it's not going to come out till 2024.
I have this odd feeling like it'll be like the lobby will be like visiting Abstergo, and then you hop in an Animus and you get to choose your battle and you get to go to that century type thing, and it's basically like you're either an assassin or a shoot, now I'm trying to think of the other guys and I'm drawing a blank for some reason. The Templars. You're either an assassin or a Templar, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, and see, it's like that's great and all, but yeah, for replayability's sake, that's going to be a problem. I mean, I know
that's where the whole, you know, you jump into whatever century, you know, you want to pick a century, right, and depending on what century you're in, might actually alter the gameplay, you know, whether you are more reliant on stealth or, you know, you have to worry more about wits and speed or just straight up attack because there's nowhere to hide, you know.
Yeah, and
I mean, there's a little bit of possibility there, but you are right. I think they're jumping on the bandwagon awful late, especially when they had such successful multiplayer clear back on the 360 that they never really tapped back into.
Yeah, and even so with that, outside of it just being late, though, it's like, have we really heard anything else? Like, I'm looking at trends in that, too, is that with the Battle Royale stuff, Ubisoft released Hyperscape. When was the last time you heard anything about Hyperscape other than when it was being shown off kind of like early last year?
think I could have downloaded that for free or something. I
It
don't
was another.
know.
It was one of those free to play battle royale ones, but it was a
Yeah,
different take on the battle royale scene. It was still battle royale, but it was a different way of doing it. So
that's another
Ubisoft, of
thing.
course, is how would they handle something like this?
It's a very saturated market. I mean, for them to announce it now, you've got Battlefield's not doing battle royale, and there's probably a reason for that. There's a lot of market saturation. You know.
Yeah, and you and I have been playing Battlefield 4 a lot lately, and
Hmm.
we see the value in doing that because you and I playing Warzone, if you really strike out the fact that we're both very terrible at that game now, if you really look at the rest of it, though, is that once you die, it's like you have gulag or you die again after that, and then you're either out of the game or you got to wait till if you're playing duos, trips, or quads, you got to wait for someone to bring you back. So the amount of time it takes for you to go in and out of a game, is just obscenely long. You've also got the cheaters and hackers in there that you've got to worry about as well. So it just makes the game kind of overly repetitive and annoying. Now, for you and I, we died a lot in Battlefield 4, but you were literally back in the game within a matter of like 10 to 15 seconds. And for them to
Right.
actually keep that, for them to effectively keep that exact same thing for going into Battlefield 2042, that's great. That they're going to keep doing that they realize we've got a good core function here and we're going to be able to keep people playing, which is great. So that's just one of those things that's like, at least they recognize it, but Ubisoft is just like, they're making a lot of money. Let's try to do the same here too. Now, even so, going into the second part of that article, talking about the sexual abuse and the misconduct, of course, at Ubisoft. Do you remember when their CEO and what was it, co-founder, what is it, Yves Guillemot, I think is their CEO. I can't remember his last name all the way.
Yeah,
But
I don't remember.
they had what was it? I think it was during E3's little live thing. They had, before they even showed off any of their games, they had the CEO or whoever he is, they had him doing like a little video intro thing, and he kind of addressed some of the things going on. But if you've got someone who's been accused of what's going on over there with any of the misconduct, now in charge of this game, how many
You're
people are
playing
going
with fire.
how many people are going to even get up and go just because of that? Because it's like, we love
Right.
Assassin's Creed, but the person you put in charge is a terrible person, and working under them is not going to make me feel any more confident working on this.
Well-
So I'm going to take my skills and go elsewhere.
And not only that, you got to worry about the people though too, that they have to think about their self-image. Like if maybe someone else that they know, or a group of people that they know of what was going on, and they know about the person that you're now currently
exactly.
working under, that was targeted by this investigation, then holy
Yeah.
shit, that could change your whole image of who you are to them. And it's messy business, and I think they need to nip that in the bud.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're going to need to do something like that, especially because if they don't, I mean, you're going to have a lot of morale issues. You're going to have a lot of continued toxicity, and you're going to see people start to migrate away. Like I was saying there, you're going to start seeing people take themselves up and go, because it's not like the games industry is stagnant right now. You've got things that
Right.
are growing because, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic really got people playing more and more games. And now that you've developed even more of a player base with some of these games, your talents are going to be sought after from other companies. And there are other places that are hiring that aren't necessarily suffering from these exact issues. So you are going to potentially be wanted somewhere else. So it is an interesting take for Ubisoft that they still haven't fully addressed it yet, and that this is what's happening. So I guess it's just going to be, I hate to say this because we always say it's going to be a matter of waiting and seeing what actually does come of it. Am I curious about what this game is going to look like? Absolutely. Am I hesitant to even try anything like this? Oh yeah, sure. Because live service games just can end up being notorious for being overly repetitive. I mean, look at early Destiny. Look at the way Fortnite has been too. Going back to Warzone. A lot of that live service stuff can be, and then the level of toxicity that and misconduct that's going on within that exact group you're going to probably see the potential of this game either being pushed out or just not being made at all because they end up losing so much talent, or everybody's so demotivated they just aren't going to put out their best. So
Right.
it's going to be a rather interesting thing to see, going over the next couple of years before this thing releases, supposedly in 2024. So
I don't know.
yeah, I don't know either.
Get
But
rid of those nasty people at your work, and they'll be okay. Then you'll be okay, Ubisoft. That's all I have to say.
just do it. Just do an Uncle Phil the Jazz and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and just grab them and just throw them right out the door.
Yep.
Just do that. Just do that. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on here to our next story, of course, because we were kind of talking about de novo stuff anyway, and now we need to go back into some other cheating things here. So this article is from Eurogamer, and I'll come back over here to the update stuff. I'm going to go down to the original story. Title of the story, of course, is New Machine Learning Cheat Threatens Competitive Console Play. A new cheat that uses machine learning has sparked concern it could ruin competitive play on console. The in-development cheat, brought to light by the Anti-Cheat Police Department Twitter account this week, claims to use machine learning to analyze gameplay footage in real time before sending inputs to your controller. Eurogamer will not disclose the name of the cheat or publish the original video. Good on you. There is concern this cheat threatens the so far relatively secure competitive console landscape, with some in the Call of Duty community particularly worried because of the focus on Activision shooter in the promo vid. Ever since phenomenally successful Battle Royale Warzone launched last year, Call of Duty Modern Warfare console players took to turning off crossplay to escape PC cheaters. But this new cheat could boost Call of Duty's cheating on console, although it's important to note the scope is currently limited. The cheat requires hardware to use, that is, a PC and a capture card. The idea is that the capture card sends your gameplay to a PC in real time, and it's this gameplay the machine learning cheat reacts to, delivering input commands in response. This is not an aimbot or a wall hack in the traditional sense. The new cheat can only react to what is shown on screen, and the user must aim in the general direction of the enemy in order to benefit. In Warzone, for example, typical aimbots see the cheater snap to targets hundreds of meters away, even those hidden behind cover or in the gas, and therefore invisible to the naked eye. Right now, the concern revolves around the impact a cheat such as this could have on the competitive console gaming if it were to become more accessible. As it stands, it's largely inaccessible for a console audience that's unlikely to have a PC and capture card to hand, not to mention any input delay this would cause. It also rekindles the debate about the use of third-party input devices on console. Many consider using the Cronus controller conversion tech, for example, to be cheating because it provides access to mods and scripts. So going back over here to the update, so this update was from yesterday. Activision appears to be taking action against the machine learning cheat that hit the headlines this week. YouTube videos showcasing the cheat were taken down following copyright claims from Activision. A video promoting the cheat has been removed from its creator's YouTube channel. Yesterday it was online. However, at the time of this update, the cheats Discord is active and cheats remain for sale. It seems Activision has taken notice of this cheat in particular, though, so perhaps it won't be long before it nukes it from orbit. So this uses machine learning and video capture, essentially, to be able to actually affect your gameplay, at least in a way that benefits you, because the present world of cheating is one of those that requires you to actually have that software running, and you can't do that on console. There's just no way to really do that on console at all. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can actually find something here, because I'm sure we looked at it before.
Here's my thing with cheaters. Do you really want to be the younger brother that you hand him a controller that's unplugged and he thinks he's playing the game? You want to be that guy? Mm-hmm. They really want to be that guy? Because that's all cheating is. That's all they're doing, is they're being the younger brother that has a controller that does nothing in their hand and they're watching the game. They're not actually playing. The fact that there's a cheat now that makes it look more realistic that you're not cheating, that's pathetic. I'm sorry.
I mean, give them some credit at least, though, for whoever it is to actually go ahead and generate something.
Don't get me wrong, that's some freaking good coding. That's some good coding. That they've got a solid career ahead of them if they can, get over the fact, that there's always an easier way. Because that, to me, that cheating, that's all it is, man. It's just the easy way, and you're just the little brother with a controller that's not plugged in.
Absolutely, that's what it comes down to. So I've got a video up here on YouTube, at least. Of course, this is not the one that was being referenced in the article, but this is what the aim hacking and wall hacking cheats generally look like for those who actually use them. So, of course, with this wall hacking cheat, they can see exactly where players are at. I think I've actually shown the same video before, but I'm bringing it up again for those who may not have actually who may not have seen things like this before. But as you can see, of course, not only do you have things pointed out where not only do you have weapon crates, weapons, ammunition, and such out there, but the yellow markers on there, of course, are other players. Those are just players that are not in your purview because, as we saw previously, anything that's in red is going to be what's actually in your view itself. So this is what cheaters are normally playing with outside of just your standard aim bots as well, too. So that way they just immediately lock onto somebody, whether they're like right in front of you or whether they are hundreds of meters away. So this cheat, and I'm not going to go try to find the video either. If I find it, I'm watching it myself. I'm not going to share that out with anybody either. I'll follow the same standard that Eurogamer put out. And if you want to go look for it yourself, by all means, folks, go and look for it. But this is one of the problems that's plaguing things. And they're absolutely right when it comes to things like, competitive stuff as well too, when it comes down to things that are competitive in the world of console gaming, because any of this stuff that actually carries over, it's just going to make things hell, and it's still a problem that these devs have not been able to fully solve. So something that deals with machine learning that's not actually an underlying part of the game itself or kind of runs in tandem with the game, that's going to be something that's harder for them to fight. So other than, of course, like unless they start measuring reaction times and how fast they're moving between, here's a person, here's who, you're aiming over this way, of course, they're moving up towards you. It's like how fast you snap over to them. And then there's a person back here. How fast do you snap to them? Like what's your reaction time moving from one person to the other? That's the only way about you can really measure some of that stuff. But this, on the other hand, is going to be very interesting just to see what comes of it.
Who would want to play with all that extra crap on their screen?
That's the thing, is that it depends on the person itself. One of these things I was reading, because I got curious about it, I was reading about it. It was in regards to cheaters out of China. And one of the things that you see actually for them is that it's not necessarily that they want to cheat per se, but it's a part of their culture to be successful in what they're doing and to be the best at what they're doing. And they will do anything by any means necessary to do. Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm going to freaking end this Discord call with you. God damn it.
Sorry.
No, one of the things is that it's like they're not necessarily like looking at like to cheat. It's just that they have had these high standards put on them for so long that for them not to be able to be successful in it without actually going that route, it's a part of their culture. Again, it's not necessarily to like be the cheater, but it's to more so be the best at it. And they will go by any means necessary to do such. And that's why you see a lot of the people who back in like over the last few years, even going back, let's say going back the last decade, you'll see a lot of people talking about Chinese hackers, Chinese cheaters. It's just because a lot of the culture and that stuff too. So a lot of the people who are playing these games out of those areas and they use wall hacks and aim hacks like that do it for that exact reason. But then, of course, the other side of that majority are people who are just, they really are terrible at the game and they want to work their way up to be able to play, against better people, especially those who might be like top tier streamers, Tim the Tapman, Nick Merckx, Dr. Disrespect, to be able to get into lobbies with them, because there are some skill-based games there that, without actually getting your stats up there, you're not going to play with some of these people. Just saying. So that's part of it. That's just part of it. But it is going to be curious to see what this actually does look like and how Activision and others could potentially counter it. That's what I'm curious to see, is more how they're going to counter it. So, but in regards to hacking, we got another hacking thing to talk about here because, of course, there's always got to be stuff.
Hackers hacking to announce that they want other hackers to stop hacking?
Hackers hacking one game to ask for help regarding hackers in their game because hacking sucks. It's a weird enigma and a weird
Yeah.
circle jerk that just I don't think we'll ever be able
Hacker
to
no hacking.
truly understand. Hacker no hacking. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about that, Kyle. So it comes from The Verge, and Apex Legends hackers interrupt games with messages about Titanfall hacking. Oh my God! So okay, what happened here in Apex Legends this last weekend?
Respawn Entertainment's Battle Royale shooter Apex Legends has proven to be a hit with over 100 million unique players and counted over 300,000 people playing on Steam at one time in May. But an issue is bubbling over from its earlier Titanfall games is now having an impact on Apex. As reports across social media show, players running into messages from people hacking the game with a save Titanfall message. Respawn acknowledged the issue on Twitter, saying, "We are aware of the activity investigating issues impacting at Play Apex playlists that are preventing players from getting into matches." In a follow up tweet at 7 p.m., the developer said these attacks don't put the personal information of players at risk and that the team is testing a fix. As of 10:15 p.m., the developer appeared confident that problems for Apex Legends are resolved. And of course, the tweets. The issue went on for hours, and when players were affected, they couldn't queue for new games. All of this happening at the same time that Apex is hosting a special event drawing players back to the original version of its first two maps, including uh, divisive areas like Skulltown, pictured, just Skulltown. And as PC Gamer and Kotaku reported, the messages have been appearing for players on PC, Xbox One, and PS4. Someone from The Verge joined a game, or the writer joined the game on PC, and when the match was over, was greeted with the following message pointing to a Save Titanfall website. After Respawn indicated the problems were over, they managed to play a few more matches without any odd messages or matchmaking problems beyond the usual ones, like not getting paired with enough or any teammates. It appears that whoever is behind the attack is doing it because of similar issues that have affected the Titanfall games going back years. A problem attribute to a single person kicked players out of Titanfall 1 sessions on PC and in inundated them with racist messages, making the multiplayer only title largely unplayable in an issue dating back to 2019. In recent months, Respawn has tweeted that help is coming ASAP and the team is investigating. Problems like DDoS attacks on the Titanfall scene, but the issues continue, with hacking becoming a game-stopping problem for the franchise that EA is counting on to provide over $750 million in net bookings during its 2022 fiscal year. Solutions can't win much longer. Apex Legends is one of the most successful games in the market today. We now have more than 100 million unique players on the game console and PC, with player engagement growing globally and at incredible levels throughout the last year. And we are forecasting continued growth, and we are forecasting close to 20% year-over-year growth to $750 million in net bookings for Apex Legends in fiscal year 2022. With significant potential for upside this year and beyond as we launch the mobile game.
So Apex Legends got hacked for the sake of trying to bring attention to Titanfall 1 having problems as well. And the communications director for Respawn, Ryan Rigney, did say that it's like they are aware of it, and they have been doing things to fix it, or at least trying to find ways to fix it. It's not like they have been ignoring it, But this hack here effectively brought people in on the 4th of July to resolve. And so the only thing that they did was not necessarily bring attention to the problem. They just caused people to work holiday overtime. That was all it was. That was it.
Dick move, guys.
Yeah, and it's like it because of exactly whatever this hack was. I was reading up some more on it, of course, because this is one of those hacks that it's like nobody really knew anything about. So it's considered in the industry as a 0 day because it's one that's not known about, of course, or an exploit or something like that to be able to do this. My kid got hit by it because they play Apex Legends a lot. And they happen to come across the exact same messages. So I'm like, for the time being, this isn't going to affect your progress or anything, but for the time being, please uninstall the game. Because we've got enough stuff connected up here in this house that I don't need something getting messed up on your computer and spreading to my computer, your other siblings' computers, your mom's computer, the game server here. We don't need any of that going around here at all. Especially because, like, my wife and I, when we have to do work, we might be turning on our work laptops while we're here. And that's the last thing that we would ever need. So it's one of those things that is like it has the potential to be messed around with. And if it's a server side thing, that's great. But I'd much rather it not be something that could potentially infiltrate anything there. So I had him uninstall it. No questions asked. I was like, just do it. And you can install it when they get the patch in place and everything's confirmed good. But they didn't do anything.
Sorry.
Exactly. But it's like they didn't do anything here on this to actually draw any additional attention. The thing that ended up happening is like all the other playlists were closed out, and the only one that was open was firing range, which is just used to toy around with the different weapons to get used to a character, different attachments, different armor sets, and that's it. That was the only playlist you could do. Everything else was shut down. So it was just they inconvenienced people just for the sake of their own game and their own emphasis because they thought Respawn was effectively ignoring them. And Respawn isn't ignoring them. So that's just what can happen.
And it's over Titanfall 1.
Yeah.
Titanfall 2's out, guys. And it's a way better game. There's more game modes in it. I promise you'll really like it. It goes on sale, Ultimate Edition, for like $5 all the time. Or if you've got Game Pass, you can download it for free.
You could, exactly. Yeah, and I'm looking over to the time period here, of course, like off of the stats from Steam. All-time peak was back in April at 27,547 players. But in the last 30 days at least, based on just Steam alone, because you can buy Titanfall 2 through Steam, was 15 minutes ago, 5,670 people playing Titanfall 2. So Titanfall, let's just see if I can find the original one here. So Titanfall Deluxe Edition, according to Steam, in the last 24 hours, it had a peak of 23 players.
Huh.
That's Titanfall 1. Titanfall, in the last 29 minutes, only 7 people were playing Titanfall. So just saying is that it's like, you're absolutely right. It's like Titanfall 2 is definitely hopping more. And I think for you and I, we've never had a problem actually getting into a game for Titanfall 2. So
no, it's always bumping on Titanfall 2. I promise.
Yeah, so maybe it's worth it to hop over there and go, but that's gonna always depend on the player, though. If they like their Titanfall 1,
maybe some of you Titanfall 1 guys can get your competitive edge back because obviously there's nobody playing it with you.
That's maybe. I don't really know. God, some of these people.
Sorry, I had to talk a little shit there because seriously, guys, you're hacking a game about a game that's pretty much dead.
Yeah, and I think Steam charts really show it.
Yeah, I like the original Titanfall plenty. It's still a great game. It was amazing when it came out, but I still prefer Titanfall 2 multiplayer. And it's got more modes, like I said. And you can pick it up cheap all the time almost.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, absolutely. I'm done soapboxing.
That's okay. That's all right. Because yes, people need to move over there or just suck it up and, deal with what the problems are, because it's like, at least for the time being, because a lot of that stuff just takes a long time to fix. So you just have to kind of be patient with it or go find something else to play. Not saying that everything's going to be taken care of, just, you have to do what you can, especially for as many games that are out there right now trying to be supported. So just
Right.
take it easy. Anyway, let's move on here to our second to last story for tonight. Of course, this is an interesting collaboration with the House of Mario. From The Verge, Nintendo is teaming up with Tag Heuer on a Mario themed watch. Nintendo, which is often associated with being a toy maker, is teaming up with, of all companies, luxury watchmaker Tag Heuer. The two companies revealed their collaboration on an upcoming Super Mario themed watch in a psychedelic teaser posted to Twitter early Friday morning. You can sign up now on Tag Heuer's website to get early access to the exclusive limited edition watch, which is coming super soon. Confusingly, Tag Heuer's tweet says you can power up on July 13th, but the website has a clock that is currently counting down to 2 days later, Thursday, July 15th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. If you're interested in snagging one of these watches for yourself, you might want to register on the site and stay up to date on when you might actually be able to order one. And I'll play the little video here in a second. The site doesn't list any details on pricing, but from what The Verge can tell, most Tag Heuer watches cost at least $1,000. So it seems likely that the Super Mario watch won't be cheap. And I have to say that the collaboration isn't one I'd expect to see from Nintendo, which I wouldn't consider a luxury brand. But I'm definitely curious as to what this watch might look like, and I'll be keeping an eye on the official reveal next week. So let's see what their trippy video is.
It's
Oh,
pretty
God.
absurd. Yeah. Like seizure-inducing or vomit-inducing something.
Yeah, it
But
really is.
I mean, yeah, the cheapest tags are 1,000, and they don't make too many of those. Most of them are usually about like your general mid-tier tag is about $5,000 to $10,000.
Yeah, I'm going to go over here to Tag Heuer's website really quick. I hope I'm saying their name right. Let's just take a
You
look
are,
here.
yeah.
All right, I'm going to get away from that because it's flashing all over the place. Let's go to timepieces and our collections. Let's see. So Chrome Capture. All right.
And they do have much more expensive watches, of course.
So I guess let's just pick the Tag Heuer Connected, which apparently these are their smart watches, I think. Yeah, so it looks like maybe these are their smart watches then. So yeah, you've got like this Tag Heuer Connected, which is the titanium case with a lime green rubber band for $2,350. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And then even
This,
just their
this is a
standard-
company that makes timepieces, not just watches.
Absolutely. No kidding.
Yeah.
So it's like, what would a Mario one even look like in the first place then? Like, what could you imagine a Mario watch like looking like?
Honestly, it's gonna be probably more elegant than you'd expect.
Like, all I can imagine is just like Mario at the end of a
I
at
could
the
see
end of
like
one of the hands or something.
I could see an emblazoned M on the band, similar to how it is on the outside of the box. Probably a red face. Maybe something to do with Mario on the face, but it will be fairly simple, I think, because they are a company that does. They do have a lot of elegant watches as well.
Yeah, and it's like I found like a watch I was looking at there because I remember this one as a kid. Let me go back to Chrome here. So this is one I remember as a kid.
Yes.
Here was this Game and Watch
I
type
love
one
it,
where you
Alex.
could actually sit there.
that I remember those
play.
watches.
Yeah, it brings to mind the Mario Nelsonic gaming watches from way back when, and that's what I think we're looking at
Yeah.
here on the screen. Yeah, there were these. There was this one. There was a Donkey Kong one. There was a Legend of Zelda one. Like those were ones I remember looking at in catalogs as a kid. You know, when trying to pick out like your Christmas presents and that. But this is one I just never ended up getting.
Right.
But what I found interesting here, of course, is that so this is an article from 2015 on CNET, and apparently there was a Super Mario watch that was made with luxury watchmaker Romain Jerome. And so I'll bring up the image there a little bit more. But you can see, of course, it has some of the pixelization that deals with, like going back to, Super Mario Brothers games, at least like the original Super Mario Brothers. You've got like one of the power-up mushrooms there too. The cloud and bush shapes are effectively the same shapes. Just
I actually like that one a lot.
yeah. And so of course they only made apparently 85 timepieces on this one, and it was going for $15,130 is what that timepiece was going for, and that's it. So for the fact that like one of those things even was being made, it's like, okay, so maybe they didn't want to pair up to do something like that again, but I mean, sure enough, there it is.
Yeah.
So very interesting that they are going to pair up with it, but it's like, wow, is Mario's 30 wasn't Mario's 35th anniversary last year?
Yes.
Okay.
Effectively ending in, what was it, March? Yeah.
I think so. So that's why it's like, where is it that we see there's always cross collaborations between different things all the time, and it doesn't always have to be for like video games. It doesn't always have to be toys. There is very kind of like specific merchandise that you might see out there that like, okay, maybe this shouldn't, but then you look at it, it's like, okay, that's a pretty neat way to tie things in. Where I'm curious though is just like what it's going to look like and where it kind of fits in with everything, and then of course what the cost is going to be, because Tag Heuer watches are
I'm just
not
curious
cheap.
who the audience is.
Absolutely, and it's going to be fans of Mario that grew up with the series and have loved Mario for their entire life and have more disposable income than you and me combined.
So how many rappers are going to have this watch?
Probably none. Probably none. I actually don't really know. It depends, I guess, on what it looks like and how big and bulky it ends up being. So,
you're probably right, because it is something that it'll be more elegant. Like I said, it's more of a classy watch, not supposed to be big and gaudy like you see so many of the ones recently. So, you're probably right.
Yeah. But let's wrap this up, though, of course, not necessarily with something gaudy, but something goofy that embarrassed a very prominent video game company. And Kyle's going to go ahead and go through that story to wrap up the evening for us. Of course, Kyle, let's talk about this one here from Polygon. Sony pulls PS5 ad that showed the console upside down. Talk about it.
A new advertisement from Sony, one that should have been a heartwarming spot about a father telling his son a bedtime story about a vengeful god slayer and his strained relationship with his child, has instead become a source of relentless teasing. Because Sony's new console, the PlayStation 5, is displayed upside down in the ad. After receiving a great deal of ribbing from Twitter users, Sony deleted its tweet showing the inverted PS5. The ad doesn't appear to have been uploaded to Sony's other video channels. The inclusion of the upside-down PS5 is harmless, of course, but that hasn't stopped folks who notice such things from poking fun at Sony for the goof. There are multiple possibilities for this error. First, the ad's dad may not be the brightest bulb, given the inability to come up with an impromptu bedtime story, and instead lifting the narrative from 2018's God of War. So maybe he's unaware of how the PS5 is supposed to be placed when horizontal. Or maybe he follows PlayStation Studios head Herman Holst on Twitter. Or maybe the ad's set designer simply looked at the PS5 and thought, well, obviously the disc slot should be on top because that looks more aesthetically pleasing. It could also be a fun callback to the original PlayStation, which many early adopters had to play upside down in order for the console to work or properly read discs. That's probably overthinking it. Perhaps, like me, PS5 dad struggled for a solid 10 minutes to get the Sony included stand to work with the PlayStation 5 in its horizontal orientation, failing repeatedly to secure it and said, "Man, fuck this," and just flipped it over because at least it lies flat. Regardless of the reason, it's probably the second one, though. We can agree that the PlayStation 5's design is highly divisive, and if Sony's ad folks looked at an upside-down console and signed off on that, that's good for a laugh in the extremely dark times.
Nice.
I'm with the dad. Just fuck that. It works upside down.
Nice. Then I got the tweet there or the picture from Reset Era up now, of course. This is back from about a month after the PlayStation 5 launched, and this is from Herman Holst, who's actually the lead for all PlayStation studios. And yeah, he has his PlayStation 5 upside down in this as well. I mean, it's like right there,
geez.
clear as day. And it's like, Really? I mean, there's no joke here. That is literally what that is. And that's just great that's how he has it.
I think that's
So
hilarious.
good on him for that one, of course, Um, sure enough here, like, you know what? Like if I go here to the, let's see here. What happens if I do this? Let's see. Oh, I can't, whatever. That's fine. But anyway, it was a goof. I'm sure that someone probably looked at it, someone who probably doesn't play video games and was like,
They
okay,
probably
here it
thought
is.
exactly
And
that. Oh,
Mhm.
the disc goes on top because, of course, it does.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's one of those more prominent things that, when you look at something anyway that usually has a disk drive in it, that's usually like more towards the top. Look at
Right?
your old desktop computers. Like your old desktops really like the
Think of
drive
a
was always
CD
on the top
player,
thing. Yeah. CD player always on the top. Absolutely. So this isn't a surprise. I'm sure it was probably a set designer who's like, okay, I have everything here. Let's just get it put in. It's like, okay, you know what? That looks fine. Nothing out of the
Everyone
ordinary on
else
this.
went to lunch and they left the one guy that wasn't a gamer on set, and he's like, "Oh shit, what? Uh, I only have so much space. I just right here."
He yeeted it. And that's the way it landed. And he's
Yeah,
like, perfect.
he's just like,
So
"Ah!"
exactly. Exactly. But of course with that part of it anyway, and nothing else in this world upside down anyway or going too crazy. That's it. That is actually it for the news this week. Of course, we were running a little bit late. Apologies on that, but we got it done. Yay! Yay us.
Yay!
With that said, of course, we do not actually have a new podcast episode for you this week. Our new separate podcast, the NPCs Discuss, we were supposed to have someone on to actually do an interview with based on the current controversy with Sony and the lack of support kind of with the indie developers out there. And so we were hoping to interview this person, but unfortunately they got tied up. So we ended up putting the podcast on hold for this week. But of course, check back with us, of course, the week after. We should have definitely something up. So apologies on that for anybody who looks out for our episodes as well, because the NPCs Discuss is always a good one there, especially for Kyle and I, as we love to dive into what's going on out there in the world of gaming, especially when we're delivering the news to all of you as well. In the meantime, of course, we got a massive library of podcasts that we've been doing for over 2 years now. Going all the way back to June of 2019. So if you want something to listen to, by God, we've got a lot of it out there for you. So go ahead and check that out on our homepage, anchor.fm/the-mpc-podcast. If you are watching this live stream and you do like watching our news live streams, come on, you really want to admit it. Don't be shy about it. You really like these. Make sure that you're following us wherever you're watching this. If you're watching this on our YouTube page, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit that notification bell. If you're watching this on Facebook, make sure to hit that like button. So when we go live, you will get a notification on either of those platforms, and you'll be able to tune in and hang out with us. All fun stuff. But, of course, we'll be back next week with more news. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch you then.
Laters.